Hello and welcome to the morning program live on NTN for today, Friday, the 6th of November. TGIF, we'd like to welcome you. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Jessie Leonce. If you're watching on air, online, a special good morning to you. If you're watching on our YouTube, Facebook, our channel 122, we'd like to thank you so much for tuning in and keeping abreast as to what's happening here in St. Lucia. We do have quite a few developments in the last 24 hours, and we'll be getting to that in just a moment. We also have in studio with us a representative from the Division of Education, Innovation and Gender Relations. She is the Director of Innovation, Ms. Lennel Malzaire, and she'll be speaking to us about innovation as we count down to the launch of the 7th operational program of the Jeff SGP UNDP here in St. Lucia. So far, we've spoken to Mr. Giles Romulus. Yesterday, we spoke to Mr. Matthias from the apiculture industry here in St. Lucia. And today, we're talking innovation, how we can come up with new methods, new ways, new products, new ways of doing things in general. So that's coming up later on in the program. We hope you could stay for the duration, the next hour or so. Meantime, the island's chief medical officer believes St. Lucia can prevent a further spread of COVID-19 through careful management of cluster cases. We're seeing them emerging here, there, and everywhere on island. We hope you are playing your part to ensure that we can reduce the spread of COVID-19, adhere and participate in infection prevention measures. Nearly 900 cases of dengue fever have been confirmed by the Ministry of Health. We'll get into that also. And roadworks in the Rodney Bay area, that's Groselay, enter a heightened phase. We hope that you could stay tuned for the program, more news, and our interview on the other end of this break.
What's in the food you're eating? Do you really even know? All the chemicals and hormones used to accelerate their growth. All the artificial flavoring, sweeteners and colors too. We consume and we don't spare a thought for the damage that they'll do. No, think about the children. Think about the children. How will we save them? Chemicals and GMOs are not the solution. Use organic and join.
Excessive agrochemical use, additives, and genetically modified foods are harmful to health and the environment. Join the good food revolution. Grow, buy, and consume organic. A message from Rise St. Lucia and the Ministry of Sustainable Development with funding from the GEF Small Grants Program, UNDP.
The good food revolution.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We are live coming to you from the Information Command Center at the GIS studios. Contact tracing and testing for COVID-19 has proven critical in the national fight to contain the community spread of the novel coronavirus. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sharon Belmar-George says that over the past week, from Friday, October 30th to Thursday, November 5th, that was yesterday, 1,056 tests were conducted and a total of 30 new cases of COVID-19 were recorded. Now, most of these cases were captured through the contact tracing process. We go to our first clip of the morning.
This information is very meaningful to the public and useful for the Ministry of Health in our management of the current outbreak, as it indicates that we are managing clusters of cases. This also indicates that we prevent further spread of the virus by identifying the positive COVID-19 cases who are linked to previous cases. As efforts continue by the public health team of the Ministry of Health to conduct health education as well as to conduct contact tracing and the testing of individuals, we make an appeal to every individual to continue regulating their movements and behaviors to reduce the risk of exposure. When leaving to go to public places, please maintain a high level of alertness. Be sure to ensure that you have your mask and your hand sanitizer, as these two items are effective in preventing the transmission of the virus. In addition, upon returning home, it should be a priority to immediately wash your hands with soap and flowing water. Making these a habit will help in reducing the spread of the virus.
On Thursday, 5th November, an additional case of COVID-19 was recorded. We so far have been registering multiple cases, but yesterday it was just one case, bringing the total number of cases diagnosed in country to date to 106. Case number 106 is a 37-year-old female from Labrie. She was tested at a recent community COVID-19 screening activity, which was held in Labrie, and was placed in quarantine while awaiting the result. The Ministry of Health is currently investigating the possibility of an epidemiological link. The number of active cases currently in care on Ireland is 74. So that's the number we have being treated at the respiratory hospital at this time. All of the cases, thankfully, remain stable, and there are no cases requiring critical care. In other important health developments, as of October 24th, 2020, St. Lucia has recorded 888 confirmed cases and 365 suspected cases of dengue fever. To date, authorities have confirmed 3 dengue-related deaths, I believe. The age range for reported cases from 3 weeks to 94 years old. That's the range of persons who are coming down with the dengue fever. The 5 to 14-year age group accounted for 35% of all the cases, followed by the 15 to 24 age bracket, and the 25 to 49-year age bracket with 21% of the cases for each group. 215 of the confirmed dengue cases have had to be hospitalized over this period of time. Dr. Glensford Joseph is a medical officer of health within the ministry.
All health regions continue to be affected by the occurrence of dengue. However, the highest number of cases confirmed continues to be in the northern part of the island. Castries accounted for 28% of the cases, Grosley 19%, and Babonneau 8% of cases. Vieux-Fort accounted for 11%, while Micoud and Dennery each accounted for 8% of cases. Between October the 11th and October the 24th, 2020, new cases were confirmed in the Micoud and Vieux-Fort district. To date, 2 strains of dengue viruses, dengue virus 3 and dengue virus 2, have been identified as being in circulation in St. Lucia during this outbreak. In its mild form, dengue fever may present with fever, headaches, pain behind the eyes, muscle and joint pains, and a red itchy rash. There are several warning signs that persons need to be aware of. These include intense and continuous abdominal pain, persistent vomiting, 3 or more episodes in an hour, bleeding from the gums, nose, in the urine or in vomit, or dark colored stool, restlessness or drowsiness, enlarged liver. Persons presenting with these symptoms should visit their healthcare provider.
The public is reminded that dengue fever can be controlled by reducing or eliminating your risk of mosquito bites. We know the vector is the Aedes aegypti most commonly. This can be achieved by eliminating mosquito breeding sites in and around our homes, by discarding all open containers with stagnant water on a regular basis. Look around your home, ensure there aren't receptacles that are collecting water around your home. Also, you can use insect repellent on your skin, on your clothing, on your mosquito nets to get them to stay away, and wear long sleeve clothing, long pants to avoid bites from the mosquito. We continue with news. The National Competitiveness and Productivity Council is seeking public comment and feedback on 2 pieces of draft legislation expected to have a direct positive impact on the private and productive sectors of our economy. The two draft legislations in question are the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Bill and the Security Interests in Movable Property Bill. Glenn Simon has a report. Take a look.
Pillar 4 of the St. Lucia Economic Recovery and Resilience Plan is geared at building resilience of the private and productive sectors of the economy. Policy Intervention Number 24, outlined under this pillar, seeks to support the business environment by fast-tracking legislation to increase access to finance by MSMEs. Shama Malzaire is the economist with the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council, NCPC, the agency spearheading the legislative reforms.
Currently, we're in the process of finalizing the Security Interest in Movable Property Bill, and this is essentially a piece of legislation which enables the use of movable assets as collateral in order to access financing from banks. We're also in the process of finalizing another bill, which is the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Bill. And this is a piece of legislation which basically works with businesses and individuals who have fallen into economic crisis by giving them a chance at reorganizing or rehabilitating their debt so as to meet their financial obligations to the bank. Now, the latter reform and piece of legislation is a significant one for the financial sector as well as the economy as a whole.
The bills are expected to generate greater confidence among MSMEs in accessing finance for business expansion, exports, and employment generation, while providing security and redress to financial institutions transacting business with MSMEs. She added that the drafting process has been very meticulous and involved extensive stakeholder consultation via a steering committee comprising representation from the Bar Association, Bankers Association, various private sector associations, key agencies and government ministries, as well as civil society organizations.
We also worked with the World Bank Secure Transactions Legal Specialists as well as the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Legal Specialists. And those persons have a wealth of knowledge and experience in terms of drafting those types of legislation and even implementing these reforms in other jurisdictions around the world. And of course, they took into consideration our local context.
Malzaire pointed out that the bills are very comprehensive in nature and have sought to address many gray areas and varying concerns. However, before the bills are enacted into law, the public is invited to comment on the draft pieces of legislation and provide feedback before the bills are finalized.
We at the NCPC and the Department of Finance and other key stakeholders are looking forward to the completion of the bills, but I think more importantly to the implementation of the wider reforms and those reforms actually translating to private sector expansion, exports, and of course contributing to economic growth in our wider economy. So we look forward to your contribution, your input, and your feedback.
The draft Bankruptcy and Insolvency Bill and the Security Interest in Movable Assets Bill are available to the public on the Government of St. Lucia portal, govt.lc, and the Ministry of Finance's website, finance.gov.lc. The NCPC also aims to increase its public sensitization campaign around these two pieces of legislation. For the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council, Glenn Simon reporting.
Thanks for that report, Glenn. We are due for another break. When we come back, roadworks in the Rodney Bay area enter a heightened phase as road improvement project being undertaken by the Ministry of Infrastructure progresses. And also we'll be talking innovation with the director from the Department of Education, Innovation and Gender Relations, Lennel Malzaire. Stay tuned for that and more coming up right after.
Sanitizer,
Better yet, use soap and water.
We must protect each other if we are to beat this corona. Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. Be a soldier, together we can beat this corona.
So you don't become the next case. Avoid touching your face. I'm sure you've been told so. Handshakes and hugging are a no.
Advice, give you the please. Cover your mouth and your nose if you cough or sneeze.
Practice social distancing and avoid large social gatherings.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. St. Lucia, be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
For further information, please contact the hotline at 311 or the Bureau of Health Education at 468-5349.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We're coming to you live from the Information Command Center. All eyes in St. Lucia are on COVID-19. We had cases increase in the last few weeks, and we do hope that you are adhering to the protocols for this 30-day period, that we've had stricter protocols being imposed at this time for our protection. We hope that you're indoors by 9 p.m. at night. It's the word coming from the CMO, the hope from the Prime Minister that everyone is playing their part voluntarily, doing what they can, getting in home by 9 p.m. and staying there until 5 a.m. to reduce the spread of COVID-19 here on island. Our final story for the morning: roadworks in the Rodney Bay area enter a heightened phase as the road improvement project being undertaken by the Ministry of Infrastructure progresses. More in this report from Herma Demac.
The Rodney Bay area is one of the busiest in the country, and the road improvement project aims to alleviate the traffic woes experienced by daily commuters. The project is currently in the first of two phases. Phase 1 encompasses the widening of the road for 4-lane capabilities, drainage and slabbing works, pedestrian sidewalks, and the placement of roundabouts. The second phase includes the building of walkovers, placement of median barriers, and road lighting. Communications Officer in the Ministry of Infrastructure, Ports, Energy and Labour, Shannon LeBon, says this project will vastly improve the user experience and safety of pedestrians and drivers.
We'd appreciate historically the main Rodney Bay junction has been identified as a point of and a cause of traffic congestion. You have people leaving Rodney Bay wanting to turn right onto the highway to head to Castries and people heading southbound. So a bit of a conflict there. So this project will address the situation, improve the flow of traffic, improve safety for both motorists and pedestrians, the pedestrian sidewalks. You have 2 lanes heading north, 2 lanes heading southbound. So it's going to be a 4-lane stretch of road once successfully completed. And you also have an overhead walk pass for pedestrians as well, adding to the safety elements of this undertaking.
The project manager in the Ministry of Infrastructure, Tiberius Roberts, says deliberate efforts ensure the current roadworks do not affect daily commute of road users.
The number one thing we took into consideration was the traffic, and the bulk of our work is being done at night time, purposely for that reason. We try our utmost best not to affect the traffic. We've had discussions with the Royal Central Police Force Traffic Department, and we come at night, we do our bulk of our work, we detour traffic as we work and in conjunction with the police department. And during the day, we allow the traffic to flow comfortably. And any of our guys you see in the day is basically doing some preparation in the drains, which will not affect the traffic in any way.
After stakeholder consultations, the ministry is considering the relocation of bus stops. The Rodney Bay Road Improvement Project is a design, construct, finance agreement with Fresh Start Construction and Management Systems by the Ministry of Infrastructure. The first phase of the project is expected to be complete in 4 weeks. From the Government Information Service, Herma Demac reporting.
Thank you for that report, Herma. And now we switch to the interview section of our program this morning. I would like to welcome from the Division of Innovation, the Department of Education, Innovation, Gender Relations, Ms. Lennel Malzaire, Director of Innovation. A special good morning to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Jesse. And good morning to you as well.
Thank you. We're counting down the launch of the 7th operational program of the Global Environment Facility Small Grants Program, United Nations Development Program, UNDP. And I think one of the things that's coming out of that is innovation. And I think many persons don't quite understand fully what the Department of Education is all about, what innovation itself is, and how it can be applied and fleshed out. We know what Ministry of Agriculture is, Ministry of Infrastructure. We know, we have an idea. But if you could today elucidate us on what innovation is all about and how it can benefit our country. But we're starting with what innovation is all about.
Thank you so much again, Jesse. It's very important for us as a nation in these changing times to understand what is available to us. And to think that innovation is something new is not a correct thought. In fact, we have always been experiencing a tendency to rethink and present new ways of doing things. And that, in essence, is innovation. What is happening now is that there's a greater focus on how these kinds of thinking, how changing to new ways of operation, how introducing technology, how deciding to take risk in certain areas can actually shift the economic ocean in a country. So St. Lucia, like the nations all around the world, we are placing focus on how we can leverage our research, how we can leverage the intellect of our people to actually change our existence as a country. The Oxford University had done a study some years ago, and they have actually mapped innovation in terms of its academic appeal. And so sometime around 1955, you'd get in the number of scholarly pieces globally, less than 2,000 pieces mentioning innovation. But you'd see by 2004, there were over 20,000 scholarly pieces mentioning innovation. And now, in contemporary times, innovation seems to be the injection in every single
buzzword.
Yes, please. It's a conversational piece. So I want to express that it's our way of life. Anecdotally, we've known that St. Lucians, we perhaps may have the highest intellectual quotient per capita. I'm putting this out loosely, anecdotally. Our people do have capacity. But how are we developing that capacity, and how are we leveraging the things that we have to create a situation where we can come up with things that can solve our problems, understand our problems, understand the problems of other persons, and present solutions that are viable, that can help the society, that can help the economy. So in short, that is the thinking behind innovation and what innovation stands to do.
Okay. To many people, when they hear the word innovation, they probably think high mind, high science, high tech, Albert Einstein. Can you just whittle it down for us as to how persons can benefit from innovative moves, from the common man right up?
Okay. Jesse, this has been the ethos that we want to communicate across. There is this belief when people hear of innovation that it is a high tech. They instantly think of computer language and digital software, etc. While this is true, and while these things, especially in times of scarcity like now, in times of challenges like COVID-19's pandemic, these do help to make our work easier, find ways to transcend the boundaries that distancing creates. But innovation is as simple as making a small change. For example, in St. Lucia, we grow a large amount of staples. And we import a large amount of processed foods too. How are we in our home kitchens making those adjustments with the staples that we grow to actually have more healthy, more affordable, and tasty meals on your table? So there is an avenue for food processing and development of new recipes, new cuisine, new flavors from an innovative point of view. So your homemaker is an innovator. We see gadgets all the time. Not too long ago, I came across this gentleman who had made a seat for his son on the back of his bicycle with wood. And I stopped and I took a picture, particularly because of what I do. And I was very interested in how he made a conscientious effort to add the elements of what the commercial one looked like to his adapted one on the back of his bicycle. This is not a new, it's not novel. They exist. You can go on eBay, Amazon, and buy one. But in his context, that's his innovation, because now he's making his son safe. It's an affordable addition for him, and it's functional. So it maps out the empathy, it maps out the creativity that he explored, it maps out the ideation. Now, in doing something like that, he now can come to the recognition that I can now adapt this to a different situation. What if my community, most persons travels by bicycle? So now this can actually become a viable enterprise for him, where he can be creating those seats to be placed at the back of bicycles. And say he was looking for, his dependency was on, say, a government project like STEP or one of those. Now he can decide, I have the autonomy to make these things and bring in a different form of income, so I'm less dependent on the social services. And from this, he may decide, you know what, there's such a demand. I need to bring in another person to assist me with the sandpapering and the aesthetic appeal. Maybe he might decide he wants to paint it. So in him doing those little things, he's actually applying an innovation. It may not be as radical as you want to think, like the evolution of Google, moving from those platforms. But in his little way, he is making changes. He's coming up with something new in his context. And he, through that action, has the potential now to create enterprise and do it viably so. So innovation is across all sectors, across all industries, and is as basic as even personal change. Okay? Importantly, there needs to be a mindset of innovative thinking, right? Even in your workplace, while it is true that you may have the inclusion of a new software to help speed up the process or to make it more effective, more functional.
Productivity.
Yes, certainly. However, even in the way you conduct your affairs, you can look at the process and recognize, if you take some time and study the different pain points. Where are things taking longer? Why are things taking longer? Is it because you have placed somebody on the front desk who has a toddler, for example, and because this person has a toddler, they come to work a little later, and as such, it's causing these files to back up and slowing down the process for those persons within the whole chain of activity? Could you now perhaps shift your human resource differently to ensure that you are getting the most efficient work done in the shortest amount of time to give you the greatest outcome? So even in our process and our services, we can apply innovative thinking to give us a greater outcome, to bring about greater social and economic growth. Additionally, there is a need for leaders, organizational leaders, to also put on an innovative persona. We need to make that shift in our society where we are more open, more vulnerable, more interested in the small dimensions that lead to the whole, and more willing to collaborate, more willing to share ideas, share information, and leverage our resources. But this boils down to trust. If we do not trust people in the matrix, then we cannot collaborate, because we are always worried that they are going to steal our funds, steal our energy, and where it pertains to something that may be of an economical basis or profit-based.
Value.
Right? These things become very touchy. But if we fail to build that network, to create that bridge, and to fill the gaps, and to realize that I may be producing coconut oil, but I may not be very good at selling coconut oil. And there is somebody who's an expert at selling anything. It may be in my best interest to bring in this person to sell my coconut oil than to go through the pains of producing, labeling, packaging, marketing, distributing the coconut oil.
You strengthen the supply chain.
Correct. And in being an innovative leader, then you are more open to the suggestions, the instructions. Those persons on the back end, what the knowledge that they have that you may not have because you don't have the experience, that this too can be infused into your daily operations to ensure that everybody is happy. Because if you have a happy employee, you probably have the output being greater, and that persons feel that their opinions are valued, and because their opinions are valued, they are more likely to share with you that knowledge that is not so overt to those persons who are not familiar with that sector. Finally, on that note, I would like to bring some close attention to our indigenous practices. There is this belief that ça se bail longtemps, and that bagay longtemps does not have value. In contemporary times, and particularly in the time of COVID, we see that some of the bagay longtemps are now coming to the fore. And they are helping us to bridge the gaps. They are helping us to be more effective or efficient at what we're doing. Even in our cultural practices, we may take those same bagay longtemps and make some changes to them, and they too can bring more value to the experience or to whatever enterprise you put in. So that's what I wanted to communicate, that innovation is across sectors, across industries. Anybody can do it, and it's a conversation to have at home and to actually find out what it is, as opposed to just listening to the words that you hear being mentioned around the topic, such as digital environments and coding. Yes, these two are, but you, even in your practice as a news anchor, can be innovative.
Yeah, many of us are innovators and we don't even know it. One of the aspects that you from the conversation I can derive is that increased awareness of your environment is important to begin to capitalize on innovation. If you could just speak to the significance of that, and being able to capitalize on optimal operation on the job, creating a viable business. And you mentioned indigenous practices. Many of us in the population have gone back to cottage industry, doing small business due to, job loss here on island. So speak to the significance of being aware of your environment, looking around you constantly to be able to see where are the gaps, where are the faults, where are the flaws that you can fill in and create viable business, increase productivity, competitiveness overall.
Okay, thank you, Jessie. In our normal day-to-day practices, we are taught stick to your business, watch your business. What I'm about to say is not to suggest that you need to mind people's business, but you need to mind people's business because people's business is your business. We are called to an era of social responsibility, where we need to understand that our actions and how we account for those is in fulfillment of the greater agenda for St. Lucia. Whatever we do, whatever others are doing, is contributing to the greater St. Lucia. So we need to take an approach for greater observation. Wherever you are, in your workplace, in the market, on your farm, in your community, wherever you are, you may be lazing by the beach. Hopefully you're not lingering by any bars or social areas because of the correct protocols. But you need to take in deep observation. Observation from a perspective of wanting to understand the context of existence. We have to understand what is happening and why it is happening if we want to be true change makers. Okay? So if you recognize that these people are always slowing down at this point, you may see nothing, but it may be something from a distance that is obstructing their view. It may be the light. But how would you know that if you do not take the time to carry out the necessary observation? And what kinds of observation practices are you using? So we must always consider what's the story? What's the story behind what is happening? So I always say we constantly make the assumption that everybody understands what you mean by the back door and entry through the back door. But what if that back door has always been their front door or their only door? So when you're reverting and you're saying, but they didn't do that, and I told them not to enter through the back door, but they don't even know there was a back door. I'm not making any excuses for anyone. I'm just using that in the context of the question asked.
Yeah, they don't
that
understand
we have to understand the context of things. So COVID-19 has boxed us, most of us, into a forced recognition that the way we were living before may no longer be. May no longer be. And if so, what are we prepared to do to bring us as close to comfortable as we can? A number of opportunities have surfaced, and in the innovation division, we have seen enterprise just go through the roof. Some out of need.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yes. So there's need to put the bread and butter on the table, and some out of, now that I have the time, I can really put my passion into practice. The long and short is that a lot of us have secret ambitions, things that we are good at, but because we have so much fear and apprehension, there is the barrier to actually roll it through. And then there's this notion that I cannot be an entrepreneur. I cannot sell things. I can only give things. Or I don't want people to think that I am trying to make money. I'm comfortable the way I am. And there are those who just believe they cannot do it. Entrepreneurship is something that can be innate and it can also be learned. There are a number of courses, and let me just put a pitch in there, that among the courses that will be advertised within the Workforce Initiative Recovery Program are courses in entrepreneurship, where if you feel you're not comfortable or you need to learn about how do I make that first step, how do I roll through the rest of the steps, then you now can go and learn about it. It's not so much about getting a certificate to take to an employer and asking them for a job because you feel now that you are certified as an entrepreneur. It's about taking the opportunity to develop your capacity and to widen your scope. So anybody can be an entrepreneur. And as long as there is a need, and that need is not being met, as long as you can understand the perspectives and the users, who are the persons experiencing that dissonance, who are those people who are affected, and you can answer their need effectively, then you are onto something big.
We've so far seen, since the pandemic situation, many persons have been providing businesses as a result of the environment around us. So I want to mention, as I stated to you before the interview, was the Entrepreneurship World Cup. The gentleman, Mr. Gilland Averill, I believe, developed Meditags for amid the whole COVID-19 situation, I guess, to identify persons, what cases they might have had prior to their contracting COVID-19 and whatnot. So definitely there is a situation where persons are looking around them, seeing how things are changing and trying to develop viable business from it. How is the Division of Innovation driving this sort of change in the country? I know you would have been collaborating very closely with the various ministries, because that's where it would begin, but collaborating with other agencies, collaborating with people on the ground in the communities to drive this sort of change and awaken the population to the possibilities that innovation can bring.
So first of all, before you can drive change, you must have a roadmap. You must understand where you're going, what are the obstacles you may face. Some of them may be planned and some of them may just show up. You must also have your backpack with your supplies for along the way. And the Innovation Division has taken the same posture, supported by its family or its network, the NCPC, which you mentioned in one of your news items, National Competitiveness and Productivity Council, and with the support of the Cambridge University, we have been developing the Science, Technology and Innovation Policy. So that document now is going to help in creating that roadmap, in putting the rules, in establishing the networks that are necessary, in helping us to flash foresight and forecast where we want St. Lucia to be internally, in the region, in the world. So that's the first step that we've been spending a lot of time and energy trying to get it right, putting it to the public and to stakeholders for their feedback, for their direction, whatever input they think may be necessary. Twinning that with our competitiveness agenda, because you cannot do the things in isolation, understanding that innovation is a pillar of competitiveness itself and productivity, and ensuring that when we finally have that roadmap, that it is reflective of the collective effort of St. Lucia to become a more innovative society and to build environments and hubs for greater innovation. So this is one of the things that we've been doing. St. Lucia used to have quite a few ICT centers, and in contemporary times, it is not just okay to bring technology to people, to bring the hardware, to bring internet. We've gone past that. We've grown from that era, and when it just came, it was great. Although Donald Trump makes me, anytime I say great now, I have to think twice. I'm sorry. It was good in that time, in that era. But now we need to see how we can leverage the technology, leverage the hardware and the software that's available to us to actually make changes, to become change makers, to become innovators, to be able to do things that can generate economic activity, to be able to do things that can change our social context, to make us a more productive people, and to give St. Lucia the boost it needs among the islands of the archipelago, to make us more seen, not just for the pitons and our laureates, but to draw out more laureates or future laureates from our country. So our department went for a rebranding exercise where we selected centers across St. Lucia. We have 8 of them, from the north to the south, the east and the west, where the focus is on innovation and career development. Okay. So these centers have been dubbed the Innovation and Career Development Centers. It was branded that way because we understand that if you are going to be an innovator, if you are going to move into entrepreneurship, if you are going to be a change maker, you need a solid support system. You can't be everywhere all the time and you can't do anything. So the innovator now needs persons around it, needs a network to support it, to build it. And that can only happen in an environment where you have persons who have strong soft skills, although the expression sounds like an oxymoron, but strong soft skills, great interpersonal skills, knows how to pitch, knows how, because if I'm not around and I'm the boss, what happens? You understand? So in so doing, these centers support the efforts of innovation and entrepreneurship within the communities, rural communities, and creates a tail end towards the Innovation Division, where we now can use our resource within the different departments across the government to assist entrepreneurs and assist persons who have ideas, who are creatives, who want to try a thing.
Is there any collaboration at the center itself to determine the various strengths of individuals in the various communities as well?
Well, we have attendants who are trained. Okay. And these persons, they would, because they're from the community, that's the first thing. Okay. And understand, remember we mentioned context? They understand the context of the people. It is easier for them to interact, dialogue, and transmit the information. We also have training activities that are conducted by our department, as well as other external bodies or even other departments within the government sector. Primarily because we recognize that prior to having an innovation division, a lot of other departments business training services of the Youth Business Trust to build our entrepreneurial capacity for the persons who service the centers, as opposed to coming up with a new module, because it works. If it works, let's use it. You may have, for example, Invest in Lucia just launched their Boost, which is their virtual incubator.
Yes.
So, in the absence of a physical incubator, we now can provide a space for someone and use our resource to channel them towards the services that are available within the Boost. So entrepreneurs, citizens, anybody can come into those centers and present their case, and then we now use our tentacles to align you towards your success.
Okay. You mentioned the policy document earlier. What stage is it at right now?
Well, we have already done the draft of the policy, and after the draft stage, we engaged in a capacity building exercise, because while it's anybody can be an innovator, but there are some principles associated and a school of thought and a body of knowledge surrounding innovation. And so, because we have practitioners within the public service who did not have those specialized skills, the Cambridge University has taken the time to induct certain courses and programs to ensure that everyone understands what their role is in the scheme of achieving that journey in the roadmap.
Okay. The launch of the 7th operational program of the Global Environment Facility Small Grants Program, it's a mouthful, of the UNDP, United Nations Development Program, is happening this coming Monday with a focus on research and innovation. Can you speak to the significance from your desk of agencies like the UNDP and even local agencies, everyone joining this effort toward the innovative cause right now?
So the UNDP GF has been a close friend of our department, and St. Lucia can be grateful for the different projects which it has taken on. For example, you spoke of the apiculture.
Yes, yesterday.
That has grown, and St. Lucia is now one of the regional leaders where it pertains to apiculture. But the GIF has been very instrumental in ensuring that we actually have the innovation division and that we have other bodies that are emerging, not-for-profit, statutory bodies around innovation through its financial support. I'm not sure if you recall from your news reporting sometime in 2018, no, it was 2019, my apologies, 2019, in February, there was the launch of the Decade of Research and Innovation. And in doing so, our country committed collectively to putting a focus within the 10-year frame on research and innovation. Not that we were not already doing research and not that we were not already applying innovative practices and wanting to be innovative, whether in private or public sectors, but to make a conscientious effort to say we are putting not just our word, our spoken word, but our finances, our resources, our time behind the development of these two subsectors. In the launch of the Decade of Research and Innovation, there's also a tie-in with the SDGs, because the world, all the United Nations are called to account for what have I done over these 30 years where it pertains to the development of the Sustainable Development Goals. So in us taking that bold step as a country to launch that decade with that focus, it means that we will actually be ensuring that there are deliverables and we can account for it, because that's always an issue, that you can measure at the end of the journey that I did this one and that one, and we can tick them down the line to ensure that we have met the collective goals. So in developing that focus, a lot of sectors came to focus. We outlined some low-hanging fruits that we wanted to capture. For example, there's a lot of data available across the departments of the government of St. Lucia. But can you say that you can just reference a repository and say, I was able to find out that in 1996 this happened, and so we can build on that initial knowledge or build on that initial research. So this is one of the things we want to do, to pull everything together into one spot to be able to use it as a building block or as a stepping stone to future and better research. There are other sectors that we will see some focus. We are focusing on building our capacity in terms of ensuring that we have a fully literate society. We want to also understand the dimensions of our gender, how women behave, how men behave in the different contexts. There's a lot that is coming out of our geothermal resources and how these things can benefit us. There's a lot that's coming out of a problem, which is our sargassum, where persons are presenting solutions to using up the sargassum in very positive ways that can ensure that we have a better environment. There is much coming out of new industry to give support to entrepreneurs who have solutions in terms of sustainable development or climate change, so that their projects will reach further, and to align them with global businesses or with global entities that can actually scale up whatever they're already doing in the microcosm in St. Lucia.
Okay. COVID-19 has presented an opportunity for many businesses to change their models, their business model, and also for persons to start up new businesses. Can you talk on the matter of adversity coming out of that, especially now, how persons can begin to create their own ideas, flesh out their own ideas, and how they can get help from the Division of Innovation to do that?
Certainly, these times have brought us to a recognition of more frugal means of getting things done. So we have this notion that we still have the same goals. We know they're important, but we want to see how best we can use whatever limited access we have to achieve the same end. So persons who are desirous of putting together their business solutions, they can get the support in terms of writing their business plans. They can get the support in terms of directing them as to, once they have designed that business concept, we would vet it with them, present new ideas. We may go through it and suggest online resources, local resources, external resources. We have been interacting with external bodies within countries such as Chile, Mexico, other Caribbean islands, Antigua, with the UN OPS as well. So we can reach out to our tentacles globally and within the region to help support those persons who are coming up with those solutions where our resource internally has reached its end. So we can help because we have innovation officers, we have technical persons who can give that kind of support. But if it's whatever you have presented is beyond our scope, we now will assist you in finding the correct pathway.
Wonderful. Our time is running out. Any final words?
Oh, certainly I have final words for St. Lucia. I want to remind St. Lucians that innovation is for us. We each have a responsibility to be innovative, to apply innovation in our day-to-day practices, as well as beyond in our work, in our enterprise, in whatever we do. But to be able to do that well, We can do a little better by increasing and developing our capacity, about researching and finding out what it really entails and how we can use the principles of innovation to fine-tune whatever we are working on. Innovation starts with our passion. A passion to be a change maker, a passion as a creative, a passion to collaborate, a passion to bridge the gaps that may exist and to fix the problems that may present themselves. What we are each called on to do is to take a deeper look at ourselves, our environment, be more empathetic, understand the situation of every given problem, and then work towards bringing an amicable solution or a solution that can help to improve the whatever pain point existed, or a situation and solution that helps to increase the value of whatever that we are doing. I want to encourage you to speak to your family about it. Make it a conversational something where your children know about innovation, where your grandparents, you can educate them about what's happening within innovation. And most importantly, for the Innovation Division, that you make the time to visit the Innovation and Career Development Centers around St. Lucia, in Moshi, Grazile, in Gara, Babuno, in Miku, in the town of Vieux-Fort, in Larishes Vieux-Fort, Soufriere, in Ancillary, and in Canaries. And continue to make use of whatever resources that are available to you for building and developing your capacity. It is not restricted to how many certificates you can acquire, but how much knowledge you have. Make it a practice to develop your lifelong learning. Make it a practice to always grow and know new things, because you may just find out that in understanding and knowing a new thing, you can build on an existing thing and make a major change in your life and the lives of the persons around you. So I'm hoping that St. Lucia will embrace these times in this area of COVID-19 to take on the mantle of building an innovative ecosystem in St. Lucia and building an innovative nation.
Lennel Malzaire, Director of Innovation at the Department of Education, Innovation and Gender Relations. We'd like to thank you so much for sitting in with us and elucidating us, giving us some information on what innovation is all about. I'm certain that our viewers have a clearer picture if they didn't before. And we do hope to have you back sometime again to speak more as the innovation project evolves here in St. Lucia and thrives going forward.
Thank you very much, Jesse.
Well, that's all the time we have for now. We'd like to thank you so much for sitting in and watching, getting an update from the government of St. Lucia on the lead stories, as well as this interview. Just to go over the headlines, COVID-19 surpasses the 100 mark. We have 73 people in care, and the government of St. Lucia also registers 888 dengue cases, confirmed dengue cases. We hope that you are doing your part, doing whatever you can to protect yourself and your family at this time. It's also flu season, you know, so ensure that your kids have their immunity up with their vitamins and what have you. Eat well, have a healthy take on healthy habits, healthy diets at this time, according to the chief medical officer, you know, stating that we take on and take on new healthy habits during this time that we're looking out for COVID-19, the dengue virus and what have you. Also, St. Lucia and Taiwan embark on an innovative week of activities in the Partnership Trade Show. We had that story following up, and also and finally, we have the update on the Rodney Bay area. The Ministry of Infrastructure works heighten in that area as they look to improve the road network. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. My name is Jessie Leon, signing off for now. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Do have a safe weekend, and don't forget to tune in tomorrow morning. We'll be having the weekend review. The entire panel will be on here. We have Lissa, Tony, and I believe we have a special someone for you. So stay tuned to NTN. Until then, goodbye. Enjoy.